Hello, namaste. This is Tim Halloran. I'm an astrologer here in Savannah, Georgia, and this is a weekly astrological forecast. I put these videos on YouTube once a week. You can help support future videos by purchasing a reading from me at the link below. So it's the 13th of January. That's a Tuesday. And it's been a pretty real and critical 2015 so far. Yes, we had a Virgo moon weekend, and on Sunday that moon moved into Libra. Tonight the moon will move into Scorpio. Friday she'll enter Sagittarius. The following Sunday, she moves into Capricorn. We have the old Capricorn moon leading into a new moon in Aquarius next Tuesday. So this past moon cycle has been pretty critical and real, you know. And it's interesting because these moon cycles have actually been exactly aligning with the progression through the zodiac signs. Each new moon has been falling at 0 degrees of that sign. And we can actually track how well we're progressing through the zodiac sign by looking at the moon. So a week ago was our full moon. We were halfway through Capricorn season. Now we have 1 week left, okay? This past moon cycle has been very critical and heavy, not only because of the Capricorn season. God bless Capricorn. We need Capricorn. We need to be grounded. We need to be practical. We need to be in our bodies. We need to be real with the world in which we are living in. However, this year it's been particularly potent, having this Uranus-Pluto square pushing us into 2015. This week we have Pluto exactly square the moon's nodes, which is really this big evolutionary push. And this is also a sincere look downward, a sincere look at all of our stuff, our unconscious stuff, yes? And as we talked about last week, you know, I said it's really important for us to be very easygoing on ourselves, to balance out all the harshness with warmth and nurturance. And I really got to say sincerely thank you to all of you for your feedback last week. I was very deeply touched by your responses. You know, thank you for the reaffirmation. I think this is very much what we need during these times, is we need to be reaffirmed in who we are and what we're doing, and to kind of not take things too personally, kind of take things not too seriously, because this has been a pretty serious past moon cycle. But this moon cycle is now starting to close. The energy is going to be shifting a lot in these next 2 weeks, yes, and we're already anticipating this now as Mercury is slowing down. This weekend, Mercury enters his storm phase. Next Wednesday, Mercury turns retrograde and will be retrograde for the next month in the sign of Aquarius. And you know, I think this is kind of an appropriate Mercury retrograde because it's following this really kind of deep and powerful and heavy and critical time. Yeah, I mean, like this last weekend with the moon in Virgo, we also had the sun in Capricorn conjunct asteroid Vesta. All this week we have Black Moon Lilith in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces. It's like we can't really get away with anything. This is a no bullshit zone. A lot of emotional purges has been happening through this last moon cycle, and you know what? It's like it could be kind of shocking. We can be very overwhelmed, I think. And I think in this sense, this Mercury retrograde through Aquarius is a kind of benign objectivity. Yeah, as we've talked about, Aquarius typically can be this kind of stern, matured, scientific sign, but I think in this sense, it's actually a very benevolent type of objectivity, because we really need that spaciousness to pull ourselves back and kind of look from a bird's eye view all of the stuff that's going on within us. And this retrograde time is when our minds kind of descend into the underworld, and we're going to talk more about this retrograde next week. But you know, it's really giving us, I think, this spaciousness to kind of be able to discern everything that's going on within and be less stuck to it, like we're in hell and there's no room to breathe or anything. We can have that little bit of spaciousness and objectivity, yes? And our consciousness can kind of put this space in between us and our emotions, which can be very useful so long as we are not using that space to escape our emotions. Yes, the emotional upheavals and transformations that have been going on these last few weeks needs to be married to the Aquarian objectivity that we are moving into. Yes, as this next moon cycle is going to be much, much lighter. Yeah, but we're not going to try to escape. We don't want to escape our emotions, because that always leads to disaster. Yeah, we don't want to have to become delusional. In fact, I think that this is a highly auspicious time to make some very concrete steps forward into our true, compassionate, healing, nurturing, spiritual being, yes? Yesterday, Mars has moved into Pisces. In 2 weeks, Venus is going to move into Pisces. And this movement into Pisces is this movement into being more focused and aligned with the collective, with the entire human nature. When Mars is in Pisces, our willpower is more bent on serving other people. We are more aligned with spiritual pursuits. And this is very nice following these last couple weeks, because it's as if we can use this very intense transformation and this bringing up to the surface of really the whole picture, yeah, our whole unconscious being. Yeah, it's like this iceberg gets pulled up and we can see all this stuff that's usually not available to view above the surface of the water. It's like we can see everything right now. And it's like this is the opportunity to move forward spiritually, which means accepting and embracing what is. As we talked about last week, faith is embracing and accepting what is. With Pluto being exactly square the moon's nodes tomorrow, and this is going to be all this week, you know, this is really like a month-long transit, you want to look, for those curious, at 13 degrees of the cardinal signs. That's Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer. Because this part of your chart, should there be any planets landing on those 13 degrees of those cardinal signs, this is where we're having like the fusion reactor of transformation happening to that part of ourself. Yeah. But Pluto is an interesting planet because Pluto is who we are in our individual depth, in our totality. Yes, everything that is nice and pretty as well as not so nice, more slimy, is there in our Pluto. And we really need to take ownership of this Pluto. Accept everything is faith. Accept that us being human beings, accept us having karma, is not a problem. It's not a big deal. Yes, we've kind of had our face rubbed in our crap the last couple weeks, looking at the karma, looking at how deep this stuff goes, seeing our insecurities, seeing our emotional attachments. And you know what? We have to take ownership of the entire thing because there's nothing wrong with the entire thing, yeah? But Pluto has these dual desires, and they can be kind of divided into union desires and separation desires. And I think this Black Moon Lilith that is moving through Virgo this week and forming an opposition to Neptune, going to square Saturn and Sagittarius all this week into next week, is that we can really see how, in reality, how much we are actually matching up to our ideals, our beliefs, our spiritual pursuits. Yeah, we can see like the full spectrum. And this polarity is really like the divine mother and the divine father too. Like Neptune is in the heaven of Pisces, singing his song, pure consciousness, pure unconditional love. While Black Moon Lilith is moving through Virgo, this is the world that needs to be healed. This is the world with all of its little bits and pieces, and all these little bits and pieces are truly being seen. Like we can't really ignore all the little bits and pieces there. And the challenge is integrating these little bits and pieces, the little mundane, everyday dramas, the little pieces, you know, we have a body, all of these kind of things. Maybe there's something we don't totally like about ourselves, our health, our body image, you know. It's like we kind of all have this cleaning up that we're doing, and we shouldn't feel bad about this. It's not a big deal, yeah. It's like when you call a cleaning lady over to your house, does the cleaning lady come over and say, "Oh my God, your house is messy. This is a big problem"? No. Okay, so we all have this role of cleaning up ourselves, and it's not a big deal. This is what we came here to do as human beings. But I think these next 2 weeks is a real opportunity to really see and make steps forward in actually aligning practically, realistically, grounded on this planet, how we can align ourselves to unconditional love and service to the collective. And it's like with Pluto now being exactly square the moon's nodes, this is like we have to look at the full picture. We see all of our own union desires. I want to commit to this spiritual practice. I want to commit to this selfless service. I want to do this charitable act. This is what makes me feel good. This is what my essence really is. And simultaneously, we've got this really, really deep ancient karma that is bleeding to the surface, with Pluto making this unconscious part of ourself viewable. And now we can see these separating desires. We can see these wounds that kind of come up, and then we want to escape from life. We don't want to take on the big roles and responsibilities. We don't want to be a perfect spiritual being. We would rather just, you know, cut it out and take a break. Yeah, and the last couple of weeks have been so intense. You know, it's like it can be easy to see these things on the surface. You know, what our goals are and how what our escapes are as well, you know, and accept everything. Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting with this Pluto-Uranus energy that's been going on, is it's like these are huge, powerful, evolutionary forces. And Uranus never wants to stand still. Uranus is like this, always got to change, always got to evolve. It's electricity, it's fusion, it just wants to expand into all this communication and enlightenment and all this stuff. It is absolutely bored with whatever's sitting still. And then simultaneously, Pluto is like this ancient, heavy karma that we, like, you know, chip away at lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and it does not change quick. And yet, that stuff is bleeding to the surface right now, and slowly and surely, we are chipping away at this stuff. And, you know, what I see this window of opportunity of, you know, these weeks, this month, you know, kind of setting the stage and taking us into the year of 2015, which can be a year of very significant growth and progress, is it's like, you know, we have the capability to rewrite history. We do have the capability to lift up to the surface what our absolute base meaning and purpose for living is, for better or worse. And we have the ability now to revise these things. With this Lilith Neptune square to Saturn, this is like we can rewrite the physical. We can go in there and we can chisel in a new line to the, you know, the laws set in stone. You know, we can dedicate a new chapter now and chisel it in. So although there is all this transformation happening very, very quickly, simultaneously this very, very ancient stuff is kind of bleeding up slowly. And this can be this kind of interesting, like, okay, how do I change this stuff quickly? Well, you can't change it quickly. You can't push away your own shadow. And this is a really key point that I'm going to mention, is when we're really seeing Pluto right on the surface and we can see everything, we can see all of our union desires and all of our separation desires. You know, the key with a lot of this stuff and real spirituality, I think, is, you know, how are we going to accept all this? Is we have to understand the inherent innocence in all of this. Yes, every single human being has union desires and separation desires. We're coming out of a paradigm that says you are a human being, you are on earth because of original sin. You had a separating desire and now you are here, you messed up. That sucks. Too bad you got to spend the rest of eternity making up for that mistake you did way back at the beginning of time, where you know, ate the apple or something like that. And it's like, okay, there is a purpose in the separation desire too. What it actually is a vibration, back and forth, back and forth. It is a dance. It is like a stitching up and down in between the fabric. Do you say every single time the needle is below the fabric, I don't see the needle, I'm a failure, you know, blah, 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 everything's going to fall apart? No, there is a reason for both of these things. We need to see our shadows with acceptance. We need to see the innocence within our shadows if we're going to process them. And this is what we're doing, is we're doing a lot of processing. If we're going to change those shadows will not change so long as we don't see the innocence inherent within them. Within any type of separation desire, separation from spirituality, caring about other people, empathy, you know, basic good things to do. When we are not aligned with that, when we have separation desires, it's for a good reason. It's coming out of a profoundly deep story that is revealed to us by Pluto. And this is something that really irks me with some of the, I'm going to say, more shallow spiritual practitioners, that it's like, okay, it is this one story, it's this one religion, it's this one savior, this one ritual, this is how in particular it is done, and it's only that way. It's like they are not in touch with their own depth and their own story. It's like, okay, this one savior, this one religion, this one story, your soul has been alive for dozens of kalpas, which means innumerable billions and billions of years. in this one dimension alone, and who knows what other dimensions you're operating in. You're going to tell me that it's this one particular way and that's how it is for everybody? That's shallow. You need to take ownership. We need to take ownership of the profound nature of our own story. And that's a way in which we can accept the union and the separation desires, because they both have a really rich history, yeah? And we need to acknowledge that too. If we're going to change history, if we're going to rewrite history, you've got to be hyper aware of history, of how it works, of where we're coming from. So we're seeing very clearly where we're coming from. And now the energy is starting to spiral up. Mercury's starting to wind down. We're starting to go inward. We're starting to process from a much more mental, above the ground. The energy is going to kind of lift us up so we can kind of see with more distance and more perspective everything that is going on. And this is a real opportunity not to try and, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go off into delusion land, but rather embrace this position and this objective lens and see, oh wow, this is this story. Wow, look at that. Look how the stitch goes up and down. Look at that dance. Look at that rhythm. That is fascinating. How can I maybe steer this rhythm in a very respectful way? Respectful to both my shadows and my, higher self, we're going to say. How can we maybe integrate these two? How can we balance these out? Because, if you try to beat yourself up and be perfect and pure the puritanical way, and, put a whole bunch of responsibility on your shoulder, that shadow is going to backfire on you. So we have to be delicate. We have to have respect. And we have to understand that it's not even so much a big deal. Yeah, I think this is like one of the biggest distinguishing factors in someone who's like really in touch with spirituality and someone who's trying to put on that they're in touch with spirituality. It's like someone who's trying to put on a show. It's like, whoa, like this magic show. Look at this. We're raising the vibration of the room. We're transforming the whole world. And it's like, no, if you're actually in touch with spirituality, it's like this is who you are. This is what we're doing. God knows how many times we've done this already. I mean, it's not a big deal. We can get in contact with the deepest, most dark, scary karma. And simultaneously, we can get in touch with the most incredible and blissful grace and mercy. Yeah. And what do you know? Pluto kind of represents both these simultaneously. Pretty far out, yeah. But you know what? This is who we are. Pluto is what we are. Let's accept the bigger us, the bigger picture, and let's seize this opportunity to really see it laid out before us and align ourselves with Neptune, with Pisces, with Mars being in Pisces, Venus moving into Pisces in 2 weeks. It's this real opportunity to align ourselves with a collective wave. Each of us is contributing our individual voice in a collective symphony that is, this symphony is what's causing the transformation and the evolution and the healing and the beauty to take place on Earth, yeah? So let us, embrace our story in our fullest, sing our song to our fullest. If we want to change a little bit of how our song is being sung, the collective is changing key right now. So let's go ahead and join in with that collective wave. And let's see where things can take us, because you know what? 2015 is a big wave that we're riding. So let's, embrace it for what it is and steer the ship best we can, because we're definitely getting pushed somewhere. Yeah? And we can take a look at your individual chart to kind of get the particulars of how this can be playing out individually for you. Yes, each of us being individual parts of the collective energy affects us individually. Our story, our deepest history is connected to the collective history. This is another important part of Pluto too, is like you can't take 100% responsibility for your own unconscious nature, but you also can't reject responsibility for it, yes. And the reason why is because Pluto is also this generational planet, It represents generational karma. You get born into a family, you get born into a culture, you take on family, DNA, cultural karma. So you can't take 100% responsibility and be just like, oh, this is all my fault. I created this real messiness in the collective unconscious that now we're cleaning up. No, it's not your fault. However, we do have to take responsibility for it, because that's why we're here. We're here to clean this up, yes? So don't take it overly seriously. Embrace both sides of things. And this is a wonderful potential to take some sincere steps forward into aligning with our spiritual self. Which means, you know what? Everything becomes automatic. We are just doing what is best for us You know, we wake up every morning feeling so good about what our renewed purpose is. Yeah? And I think that's what can come about with all this, is let's rewrite our fundamental purpose for existing. Yeah, and let's update it. Let's make it even more ever expansive, even more loving, even more blissful. That way, every morning we wake up and we already possess this inner purpose and this reason to live that is better aligned with the service and the upliftment of the world. And that's going to make this life and this situation a hell of a lot easier, yeah? So I'm wishing the very best for you and your beloveds. Namaste.